Hello everyone. Yes, you're welcome to today's live session. So, guys, we all know what is already happening in Africa, as in there is tension everywhere, considering what happened in Gabon today. Honestly, Nigerians have been reacting, Nigerians have been talking. And like you can see there, we have David Hundeyin, who has equally shared his own opinion on how these leaders try to impose themselves on the people by force. And we all know that this is exactly what is happening even in our own country. As in, when you don't want somebody to lead you, they force themselves, that they must be your leader. They must be your leader. And that is what is setting Africa back. So without any waste of time, I'm going to bring Dr. Tell in to help us analyze this post that was posted by David Hundeyin before we move over to other topics that we have to share with you guys. Doctor, please, over to you.
Yeah, good evening, Nigerians and all viewers of this program. I'm happy to be here again, once again. I think David Hundeyin, as usual, captured and summarized the whole model of leadership, the dubious model of leadership that is run in Africa in particular. I wish you'd be able to see the whole thing. It says, if the choice of an unelected dictatorship in civilian clothes versus an unelected dictatorship in military fatigues, I will choose the one that the world recognizes as an unelected dictatorship because there is a greater possibility of global pressure helping to get rid of it. What does that mean? For the fact that this person knows that, look, I am a military person, their eyes are going to be on me. But if you take it like what the Bible says, the so-called unelected dictators, who is the unelected dictators that David Hundeyin is referring to? The so-called people who tell us that they are civilians. They are like what the Bible calls wolves in sheep clothing. Because they appear like your friends, but they are there to rob you, to rape you, and to strip you of your dignity, your values, and anything that makes you a human being. For instance, just take a look at this man we are talking about now in Gabon. Nobody is saying that we want military to take over, because just like David Hundeyin said, unelected dictators in military fatigue are not desirable. But when you have these two evils appearing before you, which one is the lesser evil? Which is the lesser evil among these two evils? Is it a man who will import snow to be able to create a semblance of white Christmas in an tropical African soil? A man who will import, what's his name?
Artificial snow.
A footballer to come and commission a stadium and family restaurant and pay him millions of dollars when the citizens are suffering? Do we call democracy that one family held on to the governance of a country for 56 years? Is that democracy? So is it not better that we say it's monarchy? Take a look at United Arab Emirates. Nobody's talking about election there. They know the model. They know that this is a kingdom. Take a look at Saudi Arabia. Nobody's talking about election there. They know the model. They know that this is a kingdom, that the monarchy, that they can tell you who will take over from who. They even have their own internal control of purging themselves of excesses, so that as a kingdom, as a monarchy, they are not looked at somehow. But then we come to Africa, we say we are running democracy, but we are just raping people of their dignity. So now give me the second slide of what David said here. It says, There is a reason why every military dictator who wants to remain in office forever always resigns from the military, organizes a sham election, and installs themselves as a democratically elected civilian president. Do we still have more? So there is a reason. Why? Is because when you wear the so-called clothes of a civilian, it turns the wolf into a sheep. And people will look at that wolf like a sheep, whereas it is a wolf that is eating deep and destroying the system. He cited an example. You know, I used to be in the same class during my master's degree in the United Kingdom with someone from Uganda. This person said that there was a book published by Yoweri Museveni which said the reason why African leaders don't leave power and how to stop them. He wrote that book. He used it to push himself into power. Now, this guy came to power in 1986. Till date, he's still in power. Yoweri Museveni in Uganda came into power as a warlord, as a military man. Then, according to David Hundeyin's thesis and theory, he removed the military uniform because he knows that as long as he's wearing the military uniform, there will be pressure on him. He removed the military uniform, brought in civilian uniform. Since 1986, he's been there. That is how many years? That's about 37 years. And according to David says 4 years before he was born. So this man that is in power in Uganda today had been existing. The year they gave David Hundeyin, he was 4 years in power. He should be leaving power, and he's still there. David Hundeyin is a voice all over the world today, and one man is still in power. Shouldn't people like David Hundeyin be becoming president? Now he is in the process of handing over Uganda to his son, just like Omar Bongo handed over to his own son. After about 40-something years in power, he handed over to his son. Paul Biya apparently is planning to hand over to his son. Iyadema of Togo handed over to his son. And I keep asking this question, why is this kind of family converting the whole country into their property so rampant in the French colonized Africans? Why? Is it that there is, I don't care what you do with your people, so far as you give me what I want, relationship between these leaders and the French? Is it possible? I don't know. He said now he is in the process of handing over Uganda to his son. What else can we say? David has said it all. Thank you.
Yeah, Doc, thank you very much. Honestly, what is happening in Africa, it looks very strange. And it just continues that way. But honestly, with all these happenings, I'm just hoping that our leaders will sit up. They will sit up, they will understand that the people are now ready for good governance. Talking about this Gabon coup of a thing, don't forget that during the election, this man shut down the internet, as in he did not allow people to like have access to the internet so that they don't share what is happening in the country. He even went further to refuse the international observers from coming in to see what was happening during the election. You can imagine, he just wanted to be declared winner at all costs. But now, that same internet that he refused his people from gaining access to is the same internet he's now using to call on world leaders to come and help him out, because he has been held, he has been arrested in his house. He doesn't know the whereabouts of his wife, he doesn't know the whereabouts of his son, and he himself is under house arrest.
Excuse me, he's calling them my wife, my son, my daughter. But this daughter and son are ministers in his government. it did not occur to him that they were arrested in their capacity as ministers, not because they are his children. Do leaders even think that if they make the whole gamut of the governance a family affair, that when the hammer drops, they should not be interpreting it as attack on a family?
Yes.
Why don't they think like that?
It's true.
In the same
Yes.
way, when the internet is there to help them, they are screaming. Just like what they tell us in Nigeria. When they pick their enemy, like the former EFCC chairman or the central bank governor, they use DSS, the government apparatus, to lock them. These people who locked these people without charging them and doing them ton, we are the same people in Nigeria who were screaming rule of law yesterday. So it's about when it benefits them. It's not about us. It's not about the poor masses. It's about whenever it benefits them. It's a shame.
It's really a shame. So let me play this clip and let's take a look at it.
Concerned about another coup in Africa. Welcome again, everyone. We're beginning with a video that has leaked showing the Gabonese President Ali Bongo, who is currently under house arrest, begging the people to make some noise so that he will be free. The now ousted president is speaking in English while asking for help. Mr. Bongo has ruled the country for 14 years following the demise of his father, Omar Bongo, in 2009. Together, both have ruled for a solid 53 years. Ali Bongo also has his wife, son and daughters also serving in government as ministers. Also more about the man, Ali Bongo. He was born Alien Bernard Bongo in neighboring Congo, Brazzaville, back in February 1959. He was a one-time funk singer who stepped into his father's shoes to continue his family's 50-year rule. He's seen by some as a spoiled playboy prince who sees ruling the oil-rich country as his birthright, while others view him as a reformer who has tried to diversify the economy and who was voted into power democratically by the masses. Throughout his entire time in office, President Bongo's legitimacy has been questioned by his opponents, with allegations of fraud following his 2016 election win. He faced calls to step down following a period of ill health back in 2018, which resulted in a failed coup. Let's now show you the video of the ousted president, Ali Bongo, begging for people to make noise for him to be freed.
Ondimba, President of Gabon, and I'm to send a message to all the friends that we have all over the world to tell them to make noise, For the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence, and nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you.
So,
Can I?
Yeah, we'll come back to this too.
Can I ask?
He said we should help him to make noise.
Let me ask Mr. President Bongo, did you say my son and my daughter? Why don't you, when you come for public function, do you say, hello son, come, hello daughter, come? You are the president. You receive all the support and all the regalia and all the benefit of a president. And then your son is a minister and your daughter is a minister. Nobody in Gabon is good enough to hold all those offices except you. And so they travel with the official Esther code. Just like what is happening in Nigeria. El Rufai wants to be a minister. His son is going to be a member of House of Representatives. The former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, wants to be a senator. His son wants to be a governor. And his other son wants to be a member of House of Representatives. You understand? That is it. They're all the same. And probably that's why they are panicked. They're calling it an epidemic. So if the military wants to make taking over government an epidemic in Africa, it does simply mean that the leaders in Africa have made bad governance an epidemic. And he's asking us to make noise. Okay, what noise are we hearing in Gabon? Chibi, he said Gabonese should make noise. Or is he asking Nigerians to make noise? Does it look like the Gabonese are making noise for him to come back? Do they look like people who missed him? That video we saw people dancing, are they dancing because he said they should make noise, or are they dancing because he has been removed? Where are other? Okay, look at this one you're showing me here. Since 1982, when Shagari was the president, that was when he took over from Ahidjo. And that is after he had been the prime minister from 1975 to 1982. So he has been having the handle of power since 1975 till date. This man has become the head of the government in Cameroon before I was born. He's still there. And I'm asking myself question. And France finds no fault in it. And France does not see anything bad in it. France does not see anything bad in the kind of war that has been going on in Democratic Republic of Congo for decades. Going on does not see anything wrong in the perpetuation of power by the Yademas family in Togo. What is this? What do we call this? And you know the funny thing? This man, I pray it doesn't happen in Nigeria, because our president seems to like traveling to France more than other countries. Let's pray that thing that the presidents that are well received in France, they end up perpetuating themselves, that it does not happen to us in Nigeria. Because it's like all the presidents that are given red carpets in France ends up not leaving power. We have to pray. We have to pray and maybe pray that the judiciary even help to bring this miracle earlier than we expected. Because it doesn't matter. Paul Biya is today adjudged the world's oldest president. And he's still there. 33.4% of Gabon's population live in poverty, despite being oil-rich and having a population of 2.4 million. This country, I'm told, is it about $22 billion worth of, is it 2.2 or 22 billion? I can't remember, worth of oil alone that they export every year. Where is that money? That is the revenue they generate. Do you know, when you look at the per capita income of the country, it's running in thousands of dollars. What is per capita income? That is, when you bring the revenue potential of a company and of a country divided by the number of the population, that is per capita. So when you hear per capita, don't say that is the worth of each individual. No, what it means is that when you bring the revenue potential of a country divided by the citizen, that is the value, what every person should be worth. The per capita income of Gabonese is running in thousands of dollars, but they are still poor, because all those things happens to be in one pocket, where daddy is president and the wifey is first lady and Sonny is minister and daughter is minister. And probably grandchildren will be governors. And the West did not see anything wrong in it. Instead, they are saying they are worried the way military is taking over. When this man scrambled the internet, when he refused external monitors to come and witness the election, did they raise voice? The ECOWAS presidents were planning to go to war in Niger when the foundation that attracts the honey that attracts the bees of military was already being prepared in Gabon. Did they raise a voice? The African Union, did they raise a voice and say, hey, our fellow president in Gabon, why are you doing this as the election is coming? Why? They kept quiet. Now the military has taken over, and more like they should be hanged. I don't know how to reason. I keep asking myself, are we living in the same world? This thing they said the court is the final place for the common man. Is it really true? Or the law is actually made for the rich, made for the elites, made for those who have the handle of power to use it to manipulate us at will?
Let me play this clip for them.
Okay.
The president's appeal for intervention appears lost on the people of Gabon, who have been out on the streets of the second largest city, Port-Gentil, celebrating his ouster. Just like Niger, the people appear to support the military takeover. The video from earlier today shows hundreds of people celebrating not only in Port-Gentil, but in the capital, Libreville. The military officers who made the coup announcement late at night said they represented the armed forces. They declared on television that election results had been cancelled and borders were closed and state institutions all dissolved.
So, Doc, I really want you to comment on, when you watch this video, you tend to see the young generation, young people who have been left without job, they have nothing to do, energetic Africans being suppressed by their leaders. I don't know what you have to say, because I think each time I watch them rejoicing, what I tend to focus my attention on is their age, how old these people are, and you look at them, they are all young people. Most of them are jobless, just like what is happening in our country today. We tend to have so many Yahoo boys. We tend to have so many, like recently, the police arrested some gay members. What is even attracting them into becoming gay? Is it not because maybe they were promised some amount of money and all that? Some of them have people sponsoring them, making them to go into all those activities which they never planned doing. So when you look at this video that I've just played, these people are rejoicing because they are now seeing that, okay, a future, a better future, something better than what we have today is ahead of us. So I don't know what you've got to say about this.
Well, the only thing I can say is to read the concluding part of David Hundeyin's tweet. He said, civilian dictators are infinitely more dangerous and long-lasting than military rulers, and they are almost impossible to get rid of because the world is very happy to recognize them as legitimate. And because the world keeps singing it into the ears of these suffering masses, like in Niger, they are trying to come to Niger and say, you must have him. The people are saying, we've been suffering under him. And the world are saying, no, you must have him. Why? Because supposedly he was elected. Now, when they are removed like this, you see these people feel like, oh, we are liberated. We are liberated. I remember when my mom came home singing as a little boy then, I was confused because I didn't even know that there was anything like former military dictatorship in Nigeria. But when Buhari took over in 1984, my mom came singing that early New Year day of January 1st, 1984. She was dancing, and I'm like, why? She said, simple, the military has taken over, which means the abuse of the politicians from 1979 to 1983 made people beg for military to take over in Nigeria. Even though the military is not the best, even though the military is not equipped to govern, but the rape, the atrocious manipulation, corruption that is embedded in these people who call themselves politicians, push people to go for another evil called the military in power. They are celebrating. It's not as if the military is the best thing for our society, but it's like, oh, we can only feel liberated now because of what these people are putting us through. You see, the citizens under corrupt civilian rule are like people who are living in an abusive relationship. Like a woman who is living in an abusive relationship, the person is threatened not to say, dying in silence without being able to say what is happening. Until most times you see such people, they die. It's only when they die that people say, oh, she's been under abusive relationship. Oh, why didn't she say? How many people raped go singing, I am raped, I was raped? The stigma of that makes them, they don't talk. In the same way, the populace cannot revolt on the street about the bad governance of the civilians, because the next thing they will do, they will roll the military against them. So fear makes them behave like all those people in a bad relationship, in an abusive relationship. Out of fear, they are suffering, they are dying in silence. But when military shoots their way through like this, those people feel like someone who had been raped for years, whom all of a sudden the society recognized and came bust into the house when they are being abused and more like dislodge the abuser. And that's when you see them out of trembling, they start talking and saying what has been happening for years. That's the simple way I could summarize what is happening here. Look at the kind of
Let's catch up to speed. Let's tell you more about this and what has been going on in Gabon. A dozen mutinous soldiers appeared on national television announcing the cancellation of the recent election results and the dissolution of all the institutions of the republic. The announcement comes after President Ali Bongo Ondimba was re-elected for a third term in an election the opposition described as a fraud orchestrated by the ruling party. The 64-year-old is set to be under house arrest, surrounded by his family and doctors. But the soldiers are also saying that one of the leader's son was under arrest for treason.
30 août 2023.
This is the moment a group of senior Gabonese military officers appeared on national television and announced they had seized power minutes after the state election body announced President Ali Bongo had won a third term.
Au nom du peuple gabonais.
Appearing on national television, the Gabonese military officers said they represented all security and defense forces in the Central African nation, adding that the election results were cancelled and all borders were closed until further notice.
30 août 2023.
On this day, August 30th, 2023, we, the Defense and Security Forces, meeting within the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, on behalf of the Gabonese people and guarantor of the protection of institutions, have decided to defend peace by putting an end to the current regime. The general elections of August 26, 2023, as well as the truncated results, are cancelled. The borders are closed until further notice. All institutions of the Republic are dissolved.
Les frontières sont fermées jusqu'à nouvel ordre.
People took to the streets in celebration of the siege flags as military vehicles drove by in the Gabonese city of Port Gentil. Meanwhile, the European Union...
So, Doc, before you comment on this video, I wanted us to watch this clip where this man was saying that
I hope that
he doesn't see anything wrong, in him remaining in power.
Okay,
let's take a look at this, and then we round
helping us to organize, many of us, and tomorrow I hope that the story that we'll hear will be a more positive one.
Can I take one question from the back? Oh, okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President, for honoring the invitation. My name is Jodin Donyema. I'm a PhD in law student here. My question relates to the question of democracy within your own country and on our continent more generally. Being at an institution of educational excellence, one of the core theses of democracy is that term limits are one of the key ingredients to ensuring that a democracy thrives. And that is a principle that is seen within the Constitutive Act of the African Union, for example. And yet, for all the progressive reforms that you've introduced economically, some of the, in my view, regressive reforms is to remove term limits for presidents in your country. Do you agree with the thesis? If so, why did you introduce the term limits? And in the same breath, what are you doing in cohort with your fellow African heads of state to ensure that more women get into positions of leadership, and ultimately the demographic gender bias that we see in our executives on the continent does not persist into the future?
Well, what you say, it all sounds nice, but it doesn't work like that. First thing, I did not remove term limits. I did not. And we don't have term limits. Term limits, I would say, frankly, that sounds sexy, but it ain't working. Because when you go into your second term, you no longer have any authority because people know that you're leaving. And your second term is a completely loss because it starts problems for your succession, and people within your own party, and they start, fighting, and no one listens to you anymore. And we've discussed that, with various African leaders, and they all conclude to the same. Now, why is it still applied? It's because some African leaders think that, it's going to please you guys here. That's why they do it. But they really don't believe in it, because on the ground, they see the difficulty, And so I don't believe that, term limits, improve, democracy. I don't believe in that.
Please,
and we've seen that, in many cases.
Can we end this?
Okay, because he was saying that in America,
there is nothing this man is saying that makes sense to a reasonable person. 7 years is one term in this country. What is it you couldn't do in 7 years to start with? Okay, fine. You've done 14 years. You want 21 years after your father did 40-something years. You want me to sit down and listen to this kind of junk? The France that gave them the currency they're using, that gave them the company that is mining in their country and co. How many times do they do? How many times do they do? And he says it sounds sexy. Please, let's just end this. I think I want to go to bed, try to find a reason to sleep. These people are pissing me off, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate what they make us, one family, make us feel like. You can play the remaining part of the video, but I think I'm done for this night. I am really, 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 really pissed. There are certain things I hear just tune me off completely.
Okay, so let me just finish it, because he was saying something that relates to the United States, and I think we all should equally hear.
That's not really. You need a certain time to apply your program, and that's not done, in a country where you have term limits. For instance, once you're elected, if you're completely new, the first 2 years are going to be kind of bumpy for you to apply, and start applying your policy. And then as you start implementing, you have to think of your re-election. And that means that if you have tough measures, to apply, you won't do that, because you will be thinking of re-election, because you have a 5-year term. So you are campaigning for your re-election. Okay, you win, then you said, I'm going to. But then no, people don't listen. They don't listen to you anymore, because they know you're leaving office, and you have a tough time. So in reality, in just 2 terms, you only have few years really where you can work. Now, it is also fair to say that in most European countries, there are no term limits. And you can't say that these countries are not democratic. So you see, term limits is not really linked to democracy. I know you're going to say, well, in America they have term limits. Okay, fine. For whom? Only the president. Some guys are in the Senate. They have been for 40 years. And you know that the power lies in the Senate in America. So why not apply then term limits to everyone, to every electoral office? That would be then fair, and not just the president. And actually, the guy when he was a president faces the toughest election. But he is the one, where you apply term limits to, but you don't to the others. You can be in parliament for 30, 40 years, no problem. Why? Why? If you you think that, we should really push the democracy, then it should also be applied, to parliament. Because someone who's been there.
So, yeah. So he was saying that the 2 terms that he has served, that he does not have enough time to implement some of the policies, because your first term, you'll be thinking of re-election. So even if you have some hard policies, you wouldn't want to start implementing them, so that will not bring about your downfall during the election. You want to keep them back. And even if you come back during the second tenure, you might not really have time to implement some of the real policies. So I believe he just believes that once you get in there, stay as long or as much as you can, so that you'll be able to implement your policy. So he does not believe in time limits in office. That is his own take.
Can I ask you a question? How old was this man when his father died, that he took over in 1999? So, if you look at it as a succession, he was an adult, he was involved in power. What was it his father could not do for about 40 years? If he had been standing by the side watching his father's failure, couldn't he correct it even in 2 years? But besides, this is a country of less than about maximum 2.5 million. That's like a state in Nigeria. That's like a state in Nigeria. And the oil revenue this man receives is bigger than what the whole of Nigeria receives. He earns more money in oil than the whole Nigeria, that is 200 million plus, is earning. This money that all our politicians are stealing, and they have not been able to steal all of them. This money that Madueke, Ibori, former president, former senate, all of them have been stealing before we are born, and they have not finished stealing it. What this man is collecting is more than that. And 33% of that country is still living in abject poverty.
So what does he do with the money, if I may ask?
Good night, Nigerians. They use it to topple power in other countries. I think this is the most annoying session I've ever had. It's not your fault. As I think about these people, my stomach crumbles. I just don't feel like talking.
Yeah, so guys, to round this up, let's just take this end. I think that will just be the end.
The coup in Gabon has drawn reactions from leaders on the African continent, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu leading the pack. The president, through his special advisor on media and publicity, Ajurin Gelale, expressed the president's belief that the rule.
Yes, so our president has equally reacted to this coup that happened in Gabon. But we all know that, honestly, they've looked at Africa, they've looked at ECOWAS. They were like, who is the chairman, who is the leader of ECOWAS? Looking at somebody who so many people do not even believe in the legitimacy of his government. These military people are just taking advantage of all this, because we also what happened in Niger when this coup happened. They couldn't do anything. I mean, ECOWAS couldn't do anything. They couldn't. And it's because when they look at the chair, I mean, the chairman of ECOWAS, being the president of Nigeria, they are like, anyway, this man is still battling his position in court. He does not even know if he will still retain that position or not. And I think this is one of the reasons why these military people, they have the boldness, you know, they have the guts, they can just come out and say, oh, we've taken over power. This Gabon own happened as it came as a shock to many people. They just like arrested the man, kept him in his house, took his wife and took his son, and declared that the election has been cancelled. All the government bodies, they dissolved all of them, and that they are taking over power. And also, this is a very big wake-up call for Nigeria as a country, to our judiciary also, and also to INEC, because the INEC chairman for Gabon, I think some people said he's on the run. Some people said he has been arrested. But honestly, he's not finding things light, because they believe that he was manipulated to do the wrong thing during the election. So he has to come and account for that. But we all know what happened in Nigeria. And some people are still, you know, riding in their big cars, being called INEC chair, because nobody is there to hold them accountable for all that happened during this election. I'm very, very sure that this coup in Niger is going to teach so many of them a very big lesson. Doc, please, let's hear your final thoughts and call it a day.
My final thought is very simple. If they say that coup is becoming endemic in Africa, they should first of all ask themselves, is bad governance an endemic thing in Africa? Is it a precedent? Is bad governance not something that is attractive to people who plot coup? Have you seen where people rejoice when a good thing is taken away from them? People only rejoice when something bad is taken away from them. And as I said, the military is just another evil. But the way the so-called politicians are going may make that evil a lesser evil than the evil they are perpetuating on the masses. Thank you.
Yes, so guys, thank you all for being a part of this live session. We appreciate your presence. Please don't forget to like this video so that YouTube can recommend it for others to watch. Please subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell for more updates. I want to say a very big thank you for being a part of today's live session. Thank you all and have a good night's sleep. Bye.
Thank you.